Okay, so I wanted to give some reflections on spirituality and particularly on connecting with God in the context we find ourselves in at the moment, where we're kind of all shut in with the coronavirus. Um, our, for most of us, I guess for all of us, our world has been dramatically narrowed. Um, we've got many fewer distractions than usual. Our lives have become a lot simpler, and this can be a cause of stress, of anxiety. I think there's probably a lot of people are suffering from grief, and I wouldn't want to downplay that. Sometimes people are suffering quite serious grief for very good reasons, loss of jobs, and the Catholic people particularly many are suffering a lot of grief from the loss of the sacraments and not being able to get to Mass. It can be a time of boredom also, so it might be quite a difficult time for many of us. But I want to make some suggestions or give a specific suggestion about how it might be an opportunity. And I thoroughly believe actually it is an opportunity. It's a time of grace. It doesn't appear to be a time of grace, and I don't want to, absolutely don't want to downplay the suffering of many people who are suffering very significantly, but we can see it as an opportunity. We can see it as an exciting opportunity as our world is narrowed to go deeper into that place where God dwells. Not that he doesn't dwell out there, because he does, but there's a particular depth and potency of encounter with God that's possible, and possible when we go deeper, and the opportunity for it is greatly enhanced when our world is narrowed, when our options are narrower, when we have fewer distractions. Obviously, at this time, we can still choose to be very distracted. We can spend all day on the internet if we want to. It's probably kind of ironic because I guess you're watching this on a computer screen. But naturally speaking, our lives are narrower, and it could be time to go deeper, and that could be very exciting. In Luke chapter 10 and Luke chapter 11, we have Jesus teaching on prayer, teaching his disciples on prayer. Now, the teaching on prayer is in Luke chapter 11, but just before Luke chapter 11 is the story of Mary and Martha. And many of our Bibles insert kind of like chapter headings or section headings, and that can give us an artificial sense that, in this case particularly, that the story of Martha and Mary is a separate thing from the teaching of prayer, because there's a chapter heading, a heading in between the two stories, but actually they're connected. The story of Mary and Martha is the introduction to the Lord's teaching on prayer. Now, you know the story. Martha's running about, serving, working, doing lots of stuff. Sounds like most of us, most of the time, right? And Mary, Martha's sister, is just sitting at Jesus' feet listening, not helping with the serving. Martha comes and complains. She says, Jesus, look, I'm doing all this work. Tell Mary to get up and help. Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you worry and fret about many things. Only one is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part. It won't be taken from her. Only one thing is necessary. This is the tremendous insight of the Christian saints, the the mystics of the church, and of the church as a whole. Only one thing is necessary. Our lives get spread across so many things. We invest our time in so many things. Our minds are scattered into a million different places. Jesus says only one thing is necessary. Now, what happens when we get that? When we get that, a transformation can happen in our lives where our principal energy becomes focused where it's meant to be focused, and then everything else kind of falls into place. And I think you can see how that's like the picture that I've been painting of the coronavirus lockdown. When normally our lives are everywhere, all of a sudden our lives are narrowed. And I think Jesus would be saying to us, hey, people of God, this is the time to find the one thing necessary, to focus on the one thing necessary, and might be a tremendous gift. Now, the thing about the one thing necessary, the saints and the mystics and the church, as we've discovered the one thing necessary, the experience always is a tremendous passion for that reality, that one thing necessary, whatever it is. And the experience that if I was to have that, then I really wouldn't care about everything else. So another gospel story that Jesus tells the parable of the treasure in the field in Matthew 13. And that parable is telling us this. When we find the one thing necessary, when we find the treasure, Jesus says, the man who finds the treasure hidden in the field goes away joyfully and sells everything that he has in order to buy the field. Now, the key thing is he doesn't go away thinking, oh, I want the treasure. I'm going to have to sell everything I own. Oh, no. Oh, but I really want the treasure. Oh, I'll have to sell everything I own. Oh, gee, can I do it? Yeah, I think I'll do it. He doesn't do that. He goes, whoopee! He sells everything that he owns as if it's nothing, because he's seen the tremendous value of this one thing necessary. St. Paul in Philippians chapter 3 says the same thing. He says, I consider all things rubbish compared with the gift of knowing Jesus and being found in him and sharing in his cross that I might share in his resurrection. He doesn't say, well, knowing Jesus is here and everything else that's good is here, and knowing Jesus is even better than all that. He says all of that is actually nothing. Now, we're not seeking to speak negatively either about Martha's service or about everything that the man possesses that he sells, or about all the good things that Paul is talking about. We're not seeking to speak negatively about that. What we're seeking to do is realize that the one thing necessary, the treasure, the deep connection with God, when we know it, is of such value, of such overwhelming value, that we just naturally in that moment say, that's the only thing that matters. It's not an asceticism, it's not a penance, it's not a sacrifice to give away everything else, because the value of this one thing becomes so tremendous in our sight because we see it as it is and we see the goodness of this deep connection with God, that we joyfully say, everything else can fall away. I could joyfully do without all of that. That's the contemplative gift. That's the mystical union with God. I don't want to, maybe that kind of scares you off, contemplative gift. Mystical union sounds like something that's terribly inaccessible. No, it's offered to all. This treasure is for all, and this is our opportunity to go looking for it, search for the treasure.